Motivation isn't a limitless fuel but a fluctuating product of your brain's chemistry. Many believe willpower alone drives motivation, yet the nucleus accumbens, the brain's reward center, plays a pivotal role. Dopamine release here dictates your drive, peaking in bursts rather than constant streams. The misconception that motivation is a steady state conflicts with findings from the University of Michigan, 2022, showing dopamine signals surge in short, impactful waves. When dopamine dips, so does your motivation, highlighting the brain's reliance on dynamic chemical signals rather than sheer perseverance. Knowing this, your motivation's ebb and flow become a predictable, biological rhythm. Stress is often blamed for reducing motivation, but cortisol, the stress hormone, tells a different story. Acute stress can enhance your alertness and focus temporarily. The prefrontal cortex, however, suffers under chronic stress. Excessive cortisol impairs its function, shifting control to the amygdala, the emotion processing center. According to a 2018 study in Nature Neuroscience, prolonged stress reduces dendritic branching in the prefrontal cortex. This structural change undermines decision-making and impulse control, leading to motivation lapses. Understanding how cortisol impacts these brain structures clarifies why stress disrupts your motivational consistency. Memory plays a surprising role in motivation, with the hippocampus being crucial. This brain region influences your ability to recall past successes, propelling you forward. However, stress-induced cortisol can compromise hippocampal function, as seen in a 2017 study at Stanford University. Researchers discovered that elevated cortisol levels reduced synaptic plasticity, hindering memory retrieval. Without access to motivating memories, your drive diminishes. This interplay between stress, memory, and motivation reveals the hippocampus as a key player in maintaining your motivational momentum. Habits form the backbone of sustained motivation. The basal ganglia, a cluster of neurons, encodes these habits through repetition and reward. Dopamine release during rewarding experiences strengthens habit loops, embedding them in your brain. However, motivation disappears when these loops overtake conscious decision-making. A 2020 study by MIT neuroscientists found habitual actions operate under reduced cortical input. This means your prefrontal cortex, responsible for planning, becomes less involved. Understanding this mechanism highlights why motivation can falter when habits take control. Emotions, often seen as motivation's adversary, are crucial in maintaining it. The interplay between the amygdala and prefrontal cortex dictates emotional regulation. Emotional arousal can enhance memory consolidation, making emotional events more memorable and motivational. In 2019, researchers at Harvard University found that heightened amygdala activity correlates with increased motivation levels. Emotions aren't mere distractions but essential motivators, driving you toward goals by strengthening memories. Recognizing this, emotions provide a potent motivational force rather than an obstacle to overcome. Cortisol's impact on the brain is profound, particularly concerning the hippocampus. Elevated cortisol levels induce a reduction in dendritic density within hippocampal neurons. This structural change diminishes synaptic connections, impairing your ability to form and retrieve memories. A 2016 study at the University of California found that chronic stress reduced dendrite length by up to 20%. This reduction directly influences your motivation by affecting how effectively you can recall past achievements. The loss of dendritic connections illustrates the tangible effects of stress on your motivational capacity, emphasizing the importance of managing cortisol levels. Amygdala prefrontal connectivity is crucial for motivation regulation. Under stress, the amygdala becomes hyperactive, overpowering the prefrontal cortex's regulatory functions. This imbalance reduces your ability to weigh long-term goals against immediate emotional responses. A 2018 fMRI study at King's College London showed that individuals under chronic stress exhibited 30% less connectivity between these regions. Consequently, decision-making and motivational drive become skewed towards immediate emotional gratification. This altered connectivity underlines how stress can hijack your motivational systems, shifting focus from goal-oriented behaviors to impulsive actions. Dopamine receptor downregulation is a critical factor in the waning of motivation. Repeated stimulation, such as through rewards or stress, leads to a reduction in receptor availability. This phenomenon is seen in addiction studies and explains diminishing returns on motivation over time. A 2015 study from the National Institute on Drug Abuse found that chronic overstimulation reduced dopamine receptors by up to 40% in reward-related brain areas. This downregulation results in needing more stimulus for the same motivational effect, illustrating why motivation can fade despite repeated efforts. The basal ganglia encode habits through a process known as long-term potentiation. Here, repeated actions strengthen synaptic connections, embedding routines into neural circuits. Dopamine release during habitual actions enhances this process. A 2021 study at Johns Hopkins University demonstrated that strong habit circuits could override intentional actions, with habitual responses occurring 200 milliseconds faster. This prioritization of habits over conscious motivation explains the difficulty in breaking routines. The basal ganglia's role in habit formation showcases how deeply ingrained behaviors can overshadow motivational efforts, redirecting energy away from new goals. The default mode network (DMN) activates when your mind wanders, yet it holds significance for motivation. Typically, the DMN engages during rest and reflection, providing a mental space for goal evaluation. However, overactivity in the DMN, often seen in depression, can impede motivation by fostering negative, repetitive thoughts. A 2017 study from the University of Cambridge found that individuals with higher DMN activity reported reduced motivation and goal-directed behavior. Understanding the DMN's role highlights the balance between reflection and action, illustrating how excessive introspection can stifle motivational pursuits, tethering you to inaction. Chronic stress differs significantly from acute stress in its effects on motivation. While acute stress can enhance focus and performance temporarily, chronic stress leads to sustained cortisol elevation, impairing cognitive functions and reducing motivation. A 2019 longitudinal study from Yale University involving 1,000 participants found that those experiencing chronic stress had a 30% reduction in motivation-related brain activity. This shift highlights the differing impacts of stress duration on your brain's motivational circuits. Understanding this distinction emphasizes the need to manage stress before it transitions from acute to chronic, ensuring that motivation remains intact. Popular psychology often touts simple solutions for motivation, yet peer-reviewed neuroscience tells a more complex story. The brain's reward system, involving dopamine, doesn't respond to generic affirmations or superficial positivity. Instead, motivation stems from meaningful goals that trigger dopamine pathways deeply. A 2020 meta-analysis in the Journal of Neuroscience reviewed 50 studies, revealing that specific, challenging goals enhanced dopamine release by 60% more than vague, easy targets. This insight challenges simplistic motivational advice, advocating for well-defined objectives that align with intrinsic desires, harnessing the brain's true motivational capacity. Brain imaging studies reveal stark contrasts between motivation and procrastination. While motivation activates reward pathways, procrastination is linked to increased default mode network activity. This divergence underscores procrastination's roots in avoidance rather than mere laziness. A 2018 fMRI study at the University of Toronto found that procrastinators showed 50% more dopamine activity compared to highly motivated individuals. This discovery reframes procrastination as a complex neural pattern, not just lack of willpower. It highlights the need for targeted interventions that address these neural dynamics rather than oversimplified motivational strategies. Long-term effects of motivation loss can reshape brain structure. Reduced motivation correlates with diminished gray matter in key areas like the prefrontal cortex and hippocampus. A 2021 study published in Neuron indicated that individuals with sustained motivational deficits had up to 15% less gray matter in these regions. This structural change impacts cognitive abilities and emotional regulation. These findings emphasize motivation's role in maintaining neural health and cognitive function. The loss of motivation isn't just transient. It can leave lasting imprints on brain structure, altering your capacity for future motivation and resilience. Motivation is often mistakenly viewed as finite, when it is instead a dynamic, replenishable resource. A 2022 study from the University of Pennsylvania found that engaging in activities aligned with personal values increased dopamine levels by 40%, revitalizing motivational pathways. This reframing shows that motivation can be reignited by connecting actions with deeply held beliefs. Instead of pursuing external rewards, intrinsic motivation proves more effective in sustaining drive. This insight suggests motivation can be systematically rekindled through intentional alignment with personal values, providing a robust foundation for ongoing motivation.